Tracy McGrady has always been one of the great what-if stories in NBA history, but his latest claim set the internet on fire. Imagine this: swap Kobe Bryant for T-Mac during the Lakers' three-peat years with Shaquille O'Neal. McGrady didn't just hint at it, he flat out said he would have won championships alongside the Big Diesel. That statement instantly reignited one of basketball's most heated debates: talent versus mentality. McGrady points to his early 2000s dominance when he was first-team All-NBA, top 5 in MVP voting, and dropping 30 a night in Orlando with very little help. In his eyes, pairing that level of production with the most dominant center the league has ever seen was a guaranteed recipe for rings. He even compared it to Dwyane Wade, who proved you didn't need to be Kobe to win with Shaq, just an elite, fearless perimeter star. But the claim forces us to ask, is putting up numbers enough to survive the pressure cooker of Los Angeles, the playoff gauntlets of Portland, Sacramento, and San Antonio, and the constant clash of egos inside the Lakers locker room? This bold statement from T-Mac ensures his name stays locked into the Kobe versus Shaq legacy conversation. When you rewind the tape to Tracy McGrady's Orlando years, it's clear he was carrying an impossible load. Grant Hill, the superstar meant to be his running mate, was sidelined by constant injuries, leaving McGrady surrounded by role players like Pat Garrity and Mike Miller, who were either limited or hurt during crucial playoff runs. Despite this, T-Mac still emerged as one of the most unstoppable scorers in the league, winning scoring titles and earning All-NBA first-team honors. He wasn't just good, he was a top 5 player in the world, dropping 30 a night against defenses designed solely to stop him. That's the version of McGrady who argues that if you dropped him onto those early 2000s Los Angeles Lakers teams with Shaquille O'Neal, there's no doubt he walks away with rings. His reasoning is simple: when you're that dominant as a perimeter scorer and you're paired with the most unstoppable big man of all time, the outcome takes care of itself. McGrady believes that, like Dwyane Wade proved later, you didn't need Kobe Bryant's exact mentality to thrive with Shaq. At his peak, he insists, he had more than enough firepower to turn that Lakers dynasty into an even bigger one. Tracy McGrady doubled down on his claim by pointing straight at Dwyane Wade as proof. He argued that Wade didn't have to be Kobe Bryant to win a title alongside Shaquille O'Neal. He just had to be great at what he did. Wade's 2006 finals run showed that an elite perimeter star paired with Shaq could deliver championships, and McGrady believes his own early 2000s version was every bit as capable. In his eyes, averaging over 30 points per game and sitting among the top 5 players in the league meant the formula was already there. Dominance from Shaq, dominance from T-Mac, and the rings would follow. But that's where Nick Young, better known as Swaggy P, pushed back hard. He didn't question McGrady's talent, he questioned his mentality. According to Young, Kobe Bryant's greatness wasn't just about skill, it was about a relentless mindset that demanded accountability. Kobe pushed Shaq, clashed with management, and wasn't afraid to shake up the locker room to get results. Swaggy argued that McGrady may have had the numbers, but he didn't show that same cutthroat leadership. In his words, Kobe's mentality, not just his scoring, is what separated 3 rings from missed opportunities. And that's where the debate gets real. The conversation took its sharpest turn, the mindset debate. Swaggy P argued that Tracy McGrady never showed the ruthless edge that defined Kobe Bryant, the Mamba mentality that fueled the Lakers dynasty. Talent, he said, wasn't the issue. T-Mac had it all: the scoring, the athleticism, the ability to dominate any defender one-on-one. But in Swaggy's eyes, championships aren't won on talent alone. They're won by players willing to confront uncomfortable truths. Kobe clashed with Shaq, called him out for conditioning, and even challenged Lakers management to make bold moves. Those moments weren't pretty, but they forced change and set the tone for a three-peat. Swaggy questioned if McGrady ever had that in him. Would T-Mac have told his front office to move on from an injured Grant Hill, or demand the roster upgrades needed to win? Would he have dared to challenge a superstar like Shaq to stay locked in? For Young, the answer was no. He painted McGrady as a generational scorer who lacked the leadership fire Kobe brought to the table. The same fire that turned the Lakers from talented into untouchable. And that's the core of this debate: skill versus mentality, and which one truly wins rings. To really understand this debate, you have to revisit the brutal playoff gauntlet the Lakers survived during their dynasty years. Winning titles in the early 2000s wasn't just about pairing Shaq with a superstar guard. It meant getting through through some of the toughest teams of that era. In 2000, they faced the Portland Trail Blazers in a legendary 7-game series, capped by Kobe Bryant's iconic lob to Shaq. Then came the Sacramento Kings, loaded with Chris Webber, Mike Bibby, and Peja Stojakovic, a team that pushed the Lakers to the brink in 2002, and is still remembered for one of the most controversial playoff series in NBA history. Add in battles with Kevin Garnett and the Minnesota Timberwolves, and you start to see the level of competition. And of course, the Detroit Pistons in 2004 proved that defense, chemistry, and mental toughness could dethrone star power. These weren't easy runs. They required resilience, adjustments, and leadership in the biggest moments. That's why Swaggy P questioned whether Tracy McGrady could have matched Kobe's fire in those wars. The Lakers' three-peat wasn't just talent, it was surviving a minefield of elite Western Conference teams. Without that Mamba mentality, would Shaq and T-Mac have really made it through? The heart of the conversation centered on the explosive dynamic between Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant. Shaq was the most dominant physical force in basketball, a giant who could overwhelm any opponent in the paint. Kobe, on the other hand, was obsessed with proving he was the alpha, and that constant battle for control created friction, arguments, and even near breakdowns of the Lakers dynasty. But here's the thing, that tension didn't just hurt the team, it actually fueled their success. Kobe's relentless drive forced Shaq to stay engaged, while Shaq's dominance gave Kobe the freedom to chase greatness. It was a messy partnership, but it delivered 3 straight championships. Swaggy P argued that Tracy McGrady might not have had the mentality to thrive in that storm, that he lacked the edge to challenge Shaq and push through the chaos that defined those Lakers years. T-Mac fired back with numbers. He reminded everyone that he was a 2-time scoring champion, a perennial All-NBA first-team selection, and a top 5 MVP candidate in his prime. In the playoffs, he averaged over 30 and consistently carried undermanned rosters. For McGrady, the stats prove he was elite enough to succeed alongside Shaq. Rings or no rings, his game was championship caliber. In the end, the debate comes down to more than raw ability. Nobody questions Tracy McGrady's talent. He was one of the most gifted scorers the NBA has ever seen. But the reality is, during his Orlando years, he simply didn't have the supporting cast. Grant Hill's injuries robbed him of a true co-star, and Orlando never had the assets or market pull to bring in the reinforcements McGrady needed. Unlike Kobe Bryant, who had the leverage, the attitude, and the audacity to challenge Shaq and even Lakers management, T-Mac never had that same organizational clout. That's why critics like Swaggy P argue Kobe's mentality, not just his skill, was the difference between being great and being immortal. Ironically, McGrady's best shot at a title may have come later in Houston with Yao Ming and Ron Artest when the Rockets pushed the Lakers to 7 games, even without him on the floor. Yao was one of the few big men who could hold his own against Shaq, and that roster had championship caliber depth, but injuries robbed us of ever seeing peak McGrady with a contending squad. So here's the question, was T-Mac's lack of rings about his mentality, or was it just bad luck? Let me know what you think in the comments. Hit that like button if you're rocking with Hoop Lockdown, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dive NBA debates.